Hello, Daniela. We have another Chumash. Also, no, we have. We're in English. It's the volume 2. Okay. But and there's a Mikra to the road line flat. Okay, and that should be that. That should be fine. Okay, so we've got here. How's your hearing? You want this one? Yeah, good.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's a double-header parsha again this week. Acharei Mot and Kedoshim. And the question is, which one do we go into? Okay. So we'll try to connect it with what exactly? See, I already set myself up for not being able to answer the question when I said, what exactly does it mean to be kadosh? Okay. So let's go to Parshat Kedoshim, and which starts at chapter 19. The beginning of chapter 19 in Vayikra, Parshat Kedoshim, Perek Yud Tet. Okay. Now, one of the names for Sefer Vayikra is Torat Kohanim.
I can be 1 hour.
One of the names for Sefer Vayikra is Torat Kohanim, which in English is called Leviticus, right? Because of the tribe of Levi. Here's a Levi, here's a Kohen, and I'm Israel. I don't know what you are. Israel, Israelite, and yourself. Also, you don't know what your father was. Anyway, so that's one of the names. Another name for Sefer Vayikra is Sefer HaKedusha, the book of holiness. And one explanation regarding that is that the word Kadosh in its various forms appears more in Sefer Vayikra than in any other book of the Tanakh. You see it in last week's Parsha, you see it in this week's Parsha, and it's all about, but the sacrifices, they are Kadosh, the Mishkan is a place that is Kadosh, the laws of sexuality are also phrased in terms of kedusha, and the laws of kashrut, which animals you eat, which animals you don't eat. It's also talks. It's because you are kadosh, etc., etc. So right before we got to Torah, so Hashem says to Vatem tiyuli mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh. You shall be for me a kingdom of kohanim, of priests. Well, I don't know if priests means the same thing as kohanim exactly, but what does the word priest mean? Is it just a noun?
Yeah, just a noun.
Because in Hebrew, kohen, there's also a verb, lechahen, which means to serve.
Also to a point, right?
Lechahen is not to a
point to an office.
No, that's that's more like Kuda, Mefaked and things like that. But
I thought
No.
when somebody becomes a member of Knesset, they use Lechayim.
yeah,
Yeah, and then
well then that means to serve.
right, and I've
it
heard
means to
politicians complaining about other politicians that you were appointed and then means to serve.
Lechahen, you were it's no, lemanot is to appoint. Yeah,
Lemanot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So kohen as as a verb, it means to serve, right? And what do kohanim stand on? The place where they stand when they give the blessing. Do you know what that's called? A duchan.
Oh yeah, the duchan.
Right? And you know what the bastas and the shuk are called in Hebrew? You know the tables where they put their goods for sale. It's also called a duchan. You know,
Duchan.
duchan.
What does it mean?
It means the place from where you're serving.
Is it Hebrew or Yiddish?
Hebrew.
Pasta is Arabic.
Yeah, but I'm saying, the word duchan is the table by which you're serving. You know. So the job as kohanim, and in a certain sense, all of the people of Israel are kohanim, right? Vatem tiyu li mamlechet kohanim, you shall be for me a kingdom of kohanim. Is that your job is, as the people of Israel, is to serve. In what way? To help people, to make Hashem known to the people, and to help people come closer to Hashem, to come closer to God. Okay, that's the job of the Kohen. When a person comes to the Beit HaMikdash or to the Mishkan, and back in those days, when he's bringing an animal sacrifice, right? So what's the Kohen's job? The Kohen is not just a butcher, so to speak, that he's going to slaughter the animal and cut it up and put it on the altar. His real job is to help that person find his way of being closer with Hashem, particularly when they're bringing a sin offering, right? Particularly then. But any korban, the whole idea of a korban is from the word karov, is to come closer to Hashem. That's why you bring a korban. In English, they call the korban sacrifice, right? Which, if I ask you, this guy knows English, what does sacrifice mean?
Sacrifice. To give something of one's possession or something of one's... It's hard to define these, like...
Sacra is sacred.
Sacra is
sacrifice.
sacred.
Oh, to make something
to make
sanctified.
holy.
To make holy.
To make holy. That's the literal meaning of sacrifice, right? To give up. Right?
To give up.
To give up. The way the word is commonly used, like in baseball, a sacrifice fly, right? You're like, oh, I'll sacrifice this so that I can get that, right? It has a negative connotation. Like you're losing something, you don't really want to do it, right? I would rather not, but I have no choice. I'm going to sacrifice this so that I don't, cut my losses or whatever it is. But the literal meaning of sacrifice, like you said, holy, to make holy, right? And korban is, Shalom, please have a seat. What's your name?
Sam.
Hi, Sam. Shalom. And okay, so people need help with that, right? You need, and we're here. We're all, we're here to help. We're here to help each other in this respect, and one day it might be you helping me, and one day it might be me helping you. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Don't assume that this is just the rabbi's job to help the people of the congregation to be close to God. The people of the congregation have to help the rabbi also. It's a fact.
They're good at that.
Huh?
They're good at that.
Yeah. I hope. Okay. So what does it mean to be kadosh? What does it mean to be holy? So in our tradition, The only one that is Kadosh is Hashem, is God. Okay? But still, we use the word. The Torah uses the word. You should be holy, right? So the day-to-day meaning of being Kadosh means to be separate from something in order to be connected with Hashem. Okay? When a couple gets married and the guy says to the Kale, the Chosn says to the Kale, Acharei at mikudeshet li, you are being sanctified to me. The literal meaning of, in the halachic sense, is you are now separated unto me. You are now separated from all other men, and you're entering into an exclusive relationship with me. Okay, so that's basically that's the concept of kadosh. So Rashi says over here on we need another chair. So Rashi says over here. Rashi says on the spot. Well, let's read the verse first of all. Hashem Hashem said to Moshe, chapter 19. You have it? You have your own chumash, so give him this one. Okay, so Hashem says to Moshe, speak to the whole community of Israel, and tell them, Kedoshim tihiyu, you shall be holy. Do you have the place? Chapter 19. At the beginning of chapter 19. You're at verse 16. You see at the top of the page, it tells you what verse it's on, the very top of the page. So speak to the whole community of Israel, and tell them, Kedoshim tihiyu, you shall be holy. Right? Why? Kadosh ani Hashem Elokeichem, because I, Hashem, your God, am holy. Okay, so what does that mean? Right? Now, if you flip to the very end of this chapter, right, you'll see the very end of this chapter, which is at verse 37. It ends off with that what ushmachtem et kol chukotai v'et kol mishpatai v'asitem otam. You shall guard all my laws and all my mishpatim, and you shall do them. And Hashem, I am God. And that's the end of this particular passage. Okay. Then the Torah goes on and speaks about some other things that are related to holiness, and then once again it goes into the laws of sexuality, and there too it speaks about holiness, right? And also about the kosher foods, etc., etc. And if you go to the very end of the parsha, which is in chapter 20, verse 26, you don't have to find it, but I'll read it to you, right? It says again, "V'hiyitem li kedoshim, you shall be holy to me, ki kadosh ani Hashem, because I Hashem am holy. V'avdil etchem min ha'amim, I've separated you." There you see kadosh and separation. I've separated you min ha'amim, from all the other nations. Lihiyot li, to be in a special relationship with me. Right. So what's the definition of holy? Okay, so a simple answer is read all the mitzvot that are in this chapter, and particularly in chapter 19, and following all these mitzvot is the definition of what it means to lead a holy life. Okay? Now, Rashi particularly defines being kadosh as being separate from the forbidden sexual relations and from all transgressions. Okay? So he's going with the concept of kadosh as being separating ourselves from things that are prohibited to us. Now, when you read the mitzvot in this parsha, so you have, for example, honoring your parents. You have some laws concerning sacrifices. You have some laws concerning idolatry. You have laws about parts of your field that you have to leave for the poor, and don't steal, don't deny the truth, don't lie, don't swear falsely in my name, don't oppress, don't rob, pay your workers their wages on time, don't curse, don't curse people, don't put a stumbling block in front of a blind person. Don't do any anything corrupt in the legal system. Don't be a talebearer. Don't hate your brother in your heart. Love your neighbor like you love yourself. I'm just mentioning a few of them, okay? So Rav Steinsaltz points out that can I look at this? Just 1 second. Okay. So and we learned this in the yeshiva the other day. There are times in your life where somebody says, "Oh, this is a holy person." You know why? Because he doesn't lie. And there are times in your life where you would say, "That's what makes a holy person. That's what makes a holy person, that he doesn't tell a lie," right? You would say, "How could you even, how could you even think about telling a lie," right? And then their times change. The society that you live in is changed. And if somebody is not telling a lie, wow, they're holy. Right? Right? That's how it is. Right? Somebody's not speaking Lashon Hara, wow, they're holy. they're not slandering and so on. They're holy, because sometimes your society is such that everybody's doing it. Like, what do you mean? Like, what's wrong with you? Why don't you speak Lashon Hara? Right? Like there was this Baal Tshuva guy that people were talking during Torah reading, and it was really bothering him. And so one of the people said to him, "Tell me, how long are you going to be Baal Tshuva?" So he says, "Till I start talking during Torah reading." Okay, understand? Like it's perspective, right? And but the reality is that if we keep these laws, we will be holy. Okay, but Parshiot pshat is, the simple meaning is that if we break these laws, then we are not connecting with Hashem. We're not bringing Hashem's light into the world, right? And we've seen in the community, right? We see that that you see sometimes people are like they're starting their life and they're observant and everything and so on, and then slowly, you see the observances falling aside, and this one is doing this and this one is not doing that, and so on and so on, and I'm saying this without judgment because there are so many things that are going on today, and when you hear news about, this rabbi went to prison and that rabbi went to prison and so on and so on, it's like a lot of young people are saying, like, wait a minute, these are the people that we were supposed to look up to, right? So first of all, you have to know is that it's when the Torah says don't make sure your legal system is like protected from corruption, right? And the legal system, by the way, when you read the whole chapter, you'll see that if you were, let's say, you're selling tomatoes in the shuk, right, or whatever you're selling, you got to make sure that you're giving the people an honest weight, right? That's part of the legal system. Right, and people are being tested with these things all the time, and the fact is that if I go astray on even one of these things, it already messes up being kadosh. So even though all these mitzvot, like they seem like ordinary day-to-day mitzvot, and they are, okay, they are, and that's what the Torah is saying is that it's the day-to-day life that's going to determine if you're kadosh or not. Okay, it's not about how many hours you spend in shul and how many hours you spend davening the Amidah. That's also very important, right? But it's how are you saying good morning? How much do you care about your parents? How much do you care about your friends? How careful are you not to listen to any lashon hara? How careful are you not to speak any lashon hara? If I say any Hebrew words that you don't know, you know what lashon hara is? Yeah, okay, good. Right? All these little things add up to the definition of kadosh. Okay. Now the Ramban has an argument with Rashi here, and the Ramban quotes the Talmud, and he says, "Wait a minute. There is such a thing. There is such a possibility that is naval birshut haTorah. It's possible for someone to be disgusting within the domain of the Torah, what the Torah says permissible or not permissible. For example, you can eat the most strictly kosher food and still be a glutton. You know the word glutton, no?
Yeah.
You're eating breakfast and you're already thinking about what are we going to have for supper, and like
right.
your mind is all into. I remember when I first started doing these travelings, right? It's already maybe 18 years, 20 years, right? So back in those days, like on the airplanes, you didn't really have a choice about what you could watch. Like they were the airline put on something for you to see, and around that time they started these food shows. So there was before that, there were cooking shows. How do you make this and how do you make that and so on. But for the first time in my life, I saw there was this guy who would travel from country to country and to taste the foods of these countries. And I saw somebody talking about food, like he can go on and on, like for 15 minutes about an omelet, well, actually, you know what I mean? And it's like people were getting their heads into like food. And today there's a whole proliferation of all these shows, right? And it's like a big thing, like, did you eat in this restaurant? Did you eat in that restaurant? So, okay, so you can be eating in the most strictly kosher places, and you can be a glutton. So the Ramban says, does that make you holy? Right? Is that a holy person? Or, for example, there's no outright law in the Torah about using four-letter words. There isn't. You're not going to find it. We call our language Lashon HaKodesh because the holy tongue, because speech is holy. Okay, but there's no law that says that don't use these words or these words or these words and so on, right? But if somebody talks like that, you're going to say this is a holy person. You're not going to say this is a holy person. That's not very holy, right? So the Ramban says to Rashi, you're saying that to be holy is a matter of following the laws, following the mitzvot. But in reality, one can follow the mitzvot and still not be holy, right? True.
Have to do with your intention and what is.
It has to do with your intention, right? So the Ramban is saying that to be holy is more than just following the laws. It's about following them with the intention, like when somebody said, "Oh, this man, he's learned the whole Torah." So the other fellow said, "And what did the Torah teach him?" You could learn something, but what did it teach me? What did it teach me? What did I learn from it? Right? What did I learn from it? So we could leave it at that and say, yes, Rashi and the Ramban are having an argument, right? But we can also resolve it and say as follows: that Rashi is taking the attitude of that if you do the mitzvot because they're God's mitzvot, right? Not just because you don't want to go to hell or because you want to go to heaven, right? But you're doing it because Kabbalat all, accepting the yoke of the kingdom of heaven, accepting the mitzvah. I'm doing it because Hashem, because you want me to do it. Okay? I'm not doing this because you don't want me to do this, right? It's about my relationship with Hashem. So by following the mitzvot, you will be holy. Understand? It's if somebody is just doing it because, okay, what's the minimum I can get away with? What's the minimum I can get away with? And then it is possible that they're going to say, well, it doesn't say that I can't swear, that use lousy language. So I'm going to, well, if that's the attitude of like I'm doing the minimal that I need to do, so then it's true. I can end up being pretty disgusting even within the domain of the law. Okay, that's possible. Now Chassidut, and we've learned this in the past, but it's always good to go over it. Chassidut has a very beautiful interpretation of what it means to be holy. What it means to be holy is to be transparent to your source. In other words, somebody gives you, you're giving somebody a glass of water, right? Or you're leading services, or you're doing Birkat Kohanim, or you're doing anything else, right? So if you do this in a way where you're calling attention to yourself, that's not Kadosh, but rather to be transparent to your source. Because the fact of the matter is the way Moshe Rabbeinu speaks about it, is that Hashem gives tzedakah. Hashem gives us charity. You know how Hashem gives us charity? By giving us mitzvot. Bless you. There's some tissues on the table behind you if you want.
Thank you.
Hashem gives us tzedakah. Every mitzvah is a gift of charity from Hashem. It's an opportunity that Hashem is giving me to do something special. Okay? Somebody asks you for a glass of water, you can give it to them. I can give it to them and say, here's a glass of water, and remember, I gave it to you. Right? That's not kadosh. Right? You're giving you're learning, giving a lesson in Torah, or you're singing at a performance or whatever it is, just take off the top. It's easier. You're anything that you're doing, right? To be kadosh means to recognize that the very fact that I can do this, the very fact that you can do this, is a gift from Hashem, giving me an opportunity to do something beautiful, right? And when you do it with that attitude, when you're transparent to your source, right, you are allowing the person that you're helping to connect with Hashem. Whereas if you're calling the attention to yourself, in a certain sense, it's almost like you're stealing God's honor, taking it for yourself in a certain sense, right? And also, you've set up a block. You block this person from saying, thank you, Hashem. Right? Avraham Avinu had this open tent and everybody was coming in and he was feeding people, and then they would thank him and he'd say, no, thank Hashem. Right? And if they refused, he'd say, okay, here's the bill. If you think it's from me, then you're going to pay. You know? Okay? So, but he wanted people to know that there's a God who loves you. That there's a God who cares about you. Right? And that's now, how do you do a mitzvah on that level? So you could meditate on these things, etc., etc. But the shortcut is to do the mitzvah because Hashem said. That's what we call Kabbalat Ol Malchut Shamayim, accepting the yoke of the kingdom of heaven. In other words, let's take an example. One of the mitzvot over here is don't steal, don't lie, right? Now, ask anybody, is it a bad thing to steal and to lie? And everybody's going to say, of course it's a terrible thing. Like, you don't want to do that, right? But why should I not steal? Is it because I think that stealing is bad? Or should I not steal because Hashem told me not to steal? What do you say?
So, well, if we think it's us, I mean, where does that come from? Anybody could say, well, I think it's okay to steal. So it needs to come from Hashem.
So what you're saying in different words is like this. Yes, don't steal because it's a terrible thing to steal, and you should understand that it's a bad thing, right? But when it comes down to actually doing it, Kabbalat Ol, accepting the yoke of the kingdom of heaven, is I'm not going to steal because God said don't steal. Now, what's wrong if I don't steal because I think it's wrong to steal? Well, who knows what I'm going to think tomorrow? Right?
Or it's not okay for most people, but they're so rich, they're not going to miss this.
Yeah, you could rationalize just about anything. You can rationalize just about anything. So again, being connected to our source, being connected to the source of the Torah, to the source, to Hashem's will, to Hashem's wisdom, and if you're doing a mitzvah in that way, yes, these are ordinary day-to-day behaviors that Hashem is telling us, and yes, you will be kadosh by doing that, right? So don't worry about. So what Rashi is basically saying is don't worry about trying to understand like lofty ideas about kadosh. Don't sort of look over your shoulder to see Am I holy already? Am I holy? Am I holy?
It's like, are we there yet?
Are we there yet?
Are we ho yet? Are we ho yet?
Yeah. Okay.
So,
It's like, the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avot, it says, "Haboreach min hakavod, hakavod rodef acharav." If you run away from honor, honor will pursue you. But if you run after honor, honor will run away from you. So this guy comes to the Rebbe, he says, "Rebbe, I've been running away from honor for a long time and it hasn't caught up with me yet." And he says, "Yeah, because you keep on looking over your shoulder. You keep on turning back to see if it's running after you." Right? So the same thing with Kedusha. Don't worry about how holy you are. Don't, first of all, who are we to make those judgments? Who are we to make those judgments? We really don't understand holy, okay? Because
But it's written. But it's written. So if
it's written. So the Torah is telling you to do this. Yeah, no, don't think about, am I holy? You know what I mean? Like, do what Hashem is saying, and you will be, right? You will be, okay?
So how do you deal with people? Okay, how should I deal with people who probably in their mind are holy, but they've done things that are hurtful?
So
things that aren't, let's say, derech eretz.
So one of the mitzvot that we have, if you look in the parsha, go to verse 17 in chapter 19, Yud Zayin. So it says, everybody found it? Yeah?
Yud Zayin?
Yud Zayin, yeah. Otherwise known as 17 in chapter 19, yeah? You got it? You got it now? Okay. So it says, Lo tisnat achicha bilvabecha. You have it, yeah? Don't hate your brother in your heart. Somebody's done something harmful to you, right? But rather, hocheach tocheach et amitecha. You shall surely rebuke your fellow, and don't carry a transgression because of him, or don't, right? Lotikam, don't take revenge. Velotitov, don't bear a grudge. Et b'nei amecha, among your people. V'ahavta v'reacha kamocha, you should love your fellow like you love yourself. Ani Hashem, I am Hashem. So we have a mitzvah, v'chocheach tocheach, right? Rebuking. Now, the fact is that the Talmud already ruled a long time ago that people no longer know how to give rebuke, and people no longer have to accept rebuke. So that's a problem, okay? Now, but basically, if possible, between four eyes, to speak to this person and say, hey, what's going on, But to speak with love and like, I care about you, and you're doing something which is contrary to what you're supposed to be doing. Holy, not holy. Everybody is supposed to be holy. Okay. So if you can do that, great. And keep in mind that when you see somebody doing something negative, the Baal Shem Tov teaches, don't think that God is speaking Lashon Hara and saying, hey, is Simcha Bunim or just Bunim? Your Hebrew name?
Shimon.
Shimon. Bunim is your last name.
Yeah.
Don't think that God is simply saying, hey, Shimon, look at what this guy is doing, okay? When the Baal Shem Tov says, when we see somebody doing something negative, Hashem is letting us know two things. Number one is, I've got the same problem. Maybe many shades removed, but in some way, I've got a similar problem. And secondly, Hashem is saying, help this person. Now, how am I supposed to help this person, right? If I would go up to him and I'd say, hey, I came to help you with your problem about this and this, he might punch me in the face. Okay? So you got to be wise about how you're going to go about doing it, okay? Sometimes the only thing and maybe the best thing that you can do is do Rabbi Nachman's Azamra, is always focus on something positive in that person. And by doing that, you're putting that person into a positive space. And they will, from within themselves, be likely to do something that it will be more likely that the next thing they're going to do is going to be something positive. Reb Nachman also says that since we don't know how to rebuke, don't rebuke. Right?
Who says that?
Rabbi Nachman. Why? Because he says that since we don't know how to rebuke, when you rebuke somebody, it's like basically you're scratching their dirty, smelly spot. And the more you scratch it, the more it stinks. Okay. So you're fouling up the air around that person, and that person is going to think, oh, well, I'm a mess anyway, and he's not going to have any inspiration to change positively. So learn Rabbi Nachman's teaching in the Zamra many, many times. Okay? Zamra is teaching number 282. Okay? In the Kutei Moharan, yes. 282. Reish Pei Bet. Okay? And that is that's considered like Reb Nachman's most important teaching, by the way. Okay? About looking at the positive points. He says that basically whatever you're focusing on in the other person, it's like your eyes are a remote control, and you are literally shifting the person into either a positive space when you're looking at something positive in them, or you're shifting them into a negative space. And it works even overseas. One day we were learning this here a few years ago, and there was this lady here that she was saying, this is, come on, this is real. And at the end of the lesson, we stopped and said, okay, everybody just think about somebody that you want to sort of improve their, or like, you haven't been having a good relationship with, and sit for 2 minutes and think about something positive about that person and send them a blessing. This was like one of the 12:30 classes. 6 o'clock at night, this lady phones me. She says, you're not going to believe this. I got a long distance call from these people, and they haven't spoken with me in 2 years. And we had a nice conversation. She was like flipped out that it actually happened, that it actually, and it's true. It works. It's magic. Okay. If you call it magic, if you want, I don't care what you want to call it, but it's true. And Reb Nachman emphasizes the same thing for your own self. Focus on Midot Tovot. Okay. So that's a very practical way to help. Okay. Now, sometimes you might want to write a note to this person or whatever, but if it's going to be in the sense of like just pure criticism, then probably better not. Okay?
Yeah,
but
I mean, for me, it's not just so much criticism, but it's about it's not even about them. It's
how do you handle it?
How they've hurt me. How could you have done this to me? So it's like it has hurt me, so I'm taking it personally.
Okay.
I'm not even thinking about their character or anything like that. I'm just thinking, you say you do this, but then how could you do this to me?
So what's the issue? Is how could you do this to, or is it how could you do this to me?
To me. Yeah.
Well, so there are ways to learn. Judo.
Theoretically,
the principle.
To use someone's strength to turn around. Yeah.
Right. So the same thing is true spiritually too. In other words, if I'm gonna block your punch, right?
Right.
I'm gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
Okay. But if I see this energy coming towards me, and I learn how to use it, okay, so then, and I decide I'm not going to let it hurt me, so then it won't. But it's something that needs to be learned. Okay?
Yeah.
But for example, some people have encounters with some others in a relationship or whatever it is, where one is always like hurting the other, right? Well, one very effective thing is if the person who's being hurt makes a decision, you no longer have the right to hurt me. I'm a good person. All the times that you've hurt me because I've allowed you to hurt me. Okay? I've allowed you to hurt me, and therefore, and you know what happens usually when that happens, when the person makes that decision, you no longer have the right to hurt me. You know what happens?
The other person stops.
They stop. Maybe they'll try one or two more times, but they'll stop because they're not getting the same response that they're used to getting.
And in that situation, would you recommend also trying to send a blessing to that person that, like you were just talking about? That
You don't want to
person
bless
that,
mean people.
Hmm?
I mean, I don't want to bless mean
Yeah,
people.
but the blessing can be that I bless you not to feel a need to be this way.
you could,
Understand? The blessing doesn't necessarily have to. The blessing is like, I bless you that you shouldn't feel this need to act to strike out with your anger, and you don't have to verbally tell the person, hey, I'm blessing you. That you can do it just between yourself and Hashem, But to literally, first of all, focus on and the kudat tova, focus on something positive in this person, even if, like Reb Nachman says, even if that nekudat tova is full of stains, but there's still a little nekudat tova. There's still a little good point. Okay. And Reb Shlomo explains the idea of nekudat tova, which I don't think that you've heard this. He says, imagine, like there's this big dark screen in front of you, and there's just like a little pinhole, right? That's with light. Well, that pinhole is your access to this huge light that's on the other side. Okay. And very often when people are doing these negative things, the help that they need is that they've lost their faith in the good in themselves. Very often they don't believe anymore that they have this, that they can be, they might even think like I want to take out my anger on you and it's perfectly fine, whatever it is, right? Well, they've lost their sight of how detrimental that is, and so on. So by focusing on the kudat tova, you're shifting them. Reb Nachman says literally, you're shifting them into a positive space. And subconsciously, consciously, I don't care about all those words right now. Okay, but the fact is that by you focusing on something positive in them, somehow that is reinforcing their faith that there's still something positive in themselves. And if you have to do it 1,000 times or 2,000 times, so do it 2,000 times. Okay? But you also have to learn, it's a good idea to learn that I don't give you the right to hurt me. So if you're going to say something negative to me, I'm going to try to hear what your criticism is without feeling that you're hurting me. Because if I'm letting you hurt me, then I'm also thinking that you want to hurt me. It means I'm focusing on you in a negative, I'm focusing on something negative in you. You might not even be aware that you're hurting me. Anything is possible. Okay? So, Kedoshim Tihiyu, be holy. You know, can you imagine, God forbid, if God would look at us the way we look at each other? Huh? Right? So obviously Hashem, every morning when you wake up and you open your eyes and you're breathing, obviously Hashem believes in the positive in you. Hashem believes in the positive in you. Hashem believes that you're going to do something good today. Right? So these things are really critical teachings. And we're going to just finish with one more thing, and that is that at the very beginning of the chapter, we didn't even touch more than a couple of things over here. So I hope that everybody's inspired and that you go home and take a chumash and learn till 3 o'clock in the morning and take 2 hours of sleep and get up and continue learning.
You bet.
Okay. And the very opening, the second verse, right? Hashem says to Moshe, Daber al kol adat b'nei Yisrael, speak to the entire community of Israel. So Rashi teaches us that this portion of the Torah was taught in the presence of the entire community. Normally, Hashem would teach Moshe Rabbeinu Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu would then teach it to Aaron and to his children, and then again to the 70 elders, and they would disseminate the teachings. Okay? Here, Hashem is saying to Moshe Rabbeinu, gather everybody together and tell them all these mitzvot, tell them to be holy because I am holy. So the Netziv points out very correctly here. See, Hashem gave me some tzedakah now. He gave me an opportunity to do you a favor.
Don't think thank you.
Huh?
Baruch Hashem.
So the Netziv points out, and very correctly, that to be holy is within the community. Right? A lot of people think, I'm going to go on a retreat and I'm going to live a cloistered life, and so that I can be holy, right? That what we said, holy, separate. I'm going to separate myself from society, and I won't have any opportunities to speak Lashon Hara. I won't have any opportunities to listen to Lashon Hara, and I'll be able to meditate and fast and this and that and that and that. And Hashem is saying, no, that's not the holiness of the Jewish people. That's not what is meant by holy in the Torah. What is meant by holy in the Torah is whether you're in the shuk, or whether you're at a Torah class, or whether you're in the shul, or whether you're going shopping, whatever it is, wherever you are, this is your theater for holiness. This is where you need to be holy right now. Okay? That's Kedoshim Tihiyu, Daber el kol adat b'nei Yisrael. It's no big deal to go and be holy, like, in some cave or whatever.
Well,
Not
some
that
people
it's-
are in yeshiva 24/7,
Yeah.
and they are considered really holy. They don't have any tests, I think.
Why not? They sure they have tests.
Hashem gives us tests.
Hashem.
But it's easy. I mean,
You see, Hashem gives us tests all the time. It's true that when a guy comes out of yeshiva and comes out into the world, he's in for shock therapy. Okay, But in the yeshiva also, it's like, oh, like, like, hey, how come he's not talking to me? Or how come, like, I don't want to talk to him, or this and that. The tests can be very subtle, and the Talmud says, Kol hagadol mechavero yitzro gadol himenu. Whoever is greater than his fellow also has a greater evil inclination. Okay, so the once I heard this story that this rabbi, this Rosh Yeshiva, was running like crazy in the street, and somebody says, "Rabbi, what's wrong?" So he says, "Somebody the murder was committed in the Beit Midrash." So the guy goes to the Beit Midrash and he sees everything is going on like normal. So he comes back to the rabbi. He says, "What are you talking about?" So he says, "Somebody was embarrassed in public." And that's a form of murder, according to our understanding. Okay. So yes, there are tests in the Beit Midrash also, and there may be different tests, you understand? But the teacher walks in, the Rebbe walks into class. How are you listening to the lesson? How is he giving it over? Is it? Can you feel the presence of Hashem during this Torah class that he's giving? Okay, how is he giving it over? That's a test. Remember the story with Reb Leibel Eger when he came to Kotsk the first time, and it was Yom Kippur. So the Hasidim decided that this young man needs to be initiated. So after the davening on Yom Kippur night, he's sitting and learning in the Beit Midrash. Comes from like a very great family of misnagdim, of opponents to the Hasidim. And he's sitting and learning the Beit Midrash, and there's some Hasidim that are lying on the benches and sleeping. And this guy comes in with a bottle of wine and a cup, kicks his friend who's sleeping. He says, "Matel, did you make Kiddush yet?" So Matel says, "Leave me alone, I'm sleeping." And he says, "Matel, it's Yom Kippur tonight. It's the holiest night of the year. We got to make Kiddush." And Reb Leibel is sitting there by the other table, and he can't believe what he's seeing. And Matel says, "You make Kiddush, leave me alone." He says, No, Matel, you have to make Kiddush. Come on, get up, let's do it fast. Okay, so he says, "Okay, let's do it fast." And he pours in a cup of wine, and Matel picks up the cup of wine, and he says, "Rima Ranan Baruch," and Reb Leibel screams, "Stop!" And they look at him and they say, "What do you want?" And he says, "You're not allowed to do that." Who said it? "Oh, it says in Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law. Leave us alone, kid. Matel, Kiddush, come on." And he screams again, "Stop!" And they look at him, "What do you want?" And he says, "You're not allowed to do that. It's Yom Kippur." Who says? It says in the Torah. Get out of here, kid. Come on, Matel, hurry up. Let's make Kiddush. Baruch Atah Hashem, and he starts saying Adoy, and Matel screams, and he says, "Stop!" I mean, Reb Leibel screams, "Stop!" And they say, "What do you want?" He says, "You're not allowed to do that." Who said? God said. Oh, God said. They put it down. Okay? Right? In other words, this young man knew a tremendous amount of Torah. What they initiated him into is, are you in conversation with God, or are you just learning Torah?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a test, or is that not a test? It's a test, right? Is it about our relationship with Hashem, or is it about me acquiring beautiful knowledge, and then, people are going to say, "Oh, Rabbi, Rav, da," right? Why am I learning? Why are we learning? Is it because it's about our relationship with Hashem, or is it about, yeah, this like some people like math and some people like Torah, you know? So this is, we're being tested all the time. This young man over here is like, you know, the Baal Tefillah at Mayanot. I'm sure that he's got plenty of tests besides the fact some people behind him might be driving him nuts about how to sing the songs or
Lots of tests.
there's lots of tests to nullify yourself, to get out of the way and let Hashem's light come through. That's the test. Okay? Whatever you're doing. Right? Reb Shlomo always used to end with, he would say, bless me and I bless you back, that we should ingest these holy words, you know, that we've been learning tonight, and that we should be best friends.
Amen.
Amen.
Have a good Shabbos. Good Shabbos. Yeah, Mirza Hashem, I think we're gonna be here, and we're gonna have third meal, so everybody is welcome.
At what time is your 15th? 7?